She wasn't supposed to be there. Not at that time, not in that place, and certainly not carrying the last sandwich she had saved from lunch. But fate rarely asks permission when it rewrites the script. Maya Carter was 16, tired and angry. Her mom had forgotten to pick her up from after school to ring again, and her phone was nearly dead. The walk home was a good hour through the edges of Washington Park, a part of town the city didn't brag about. Her backpack was heavy, her stomach was growling, and the wind carried that biting late fall chill that snuck under jackets like a thief. She spotted him under the old sycamore tree. He sat curled against the wind, a blanket over his shoulders, one boot untied, beard tangled with time. His eyes were closed, face turned upward like he could still feel sunlight that no longer warmed. A shopping cart sat beside him packed with broken umbrellas, yellowing books, and a cracked mirror tied with twine. He didn't look like he belonged anywhere, and maybe that's exactly why Maya stopped walking. The sandwich in her bag was smashed and cold, but it was all she had. Her mom's fridge had more bills than food lately. Still, without thinking, her hand reached for it. She stepped off the sidewalk. "Hey," she said, her voice small. The man stirred, blinking slowly like it hurt to wake up. "I got a sandwich," she added. "It's kinda not great, but it's real." His eyes found hers. Blue. Not the dull, faded kind she expected, but a startling blue that seemed out of place on a man wearing shoes held together by hope and duct tape. "You're giving that to me?" he asked, voice rough as winter gravel. Maya shrugged. "Guess so." He took it slowly, like maybe it would vanish. He didn't eat right away, just held it, looked at her like he wasn't sure if she was real either. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya." He nodded. "That's a good name. Means illusion, right? Or magic?" She laughed, caught off guard. "Yeah, something like that." "You." He chewed the first bite before answering. "People just call me Charlie." Silence wrapped around them like the wind. Maya stood awkwardly, unsure if she should say something more or just walk away. But Charlie spoke again. "You didn't have to stop. Most people don't." "Most people suck," she said bluntly. He chuckled, a warm, wheezing sound. "Maybe, but you don't." Then he did something that made her chest tighten. He tore the sandwich in half, offering it back to her. "You hungry too?" She shook her head quickly, swallowing past the lump in her throat. "No, I'm okay." They sat for another minute. She didn't know why. Maybe because he didn't ask her for anything. Maybe because he said her name like it meant something. Maybe because he looked at her like she wasn't invisible. Eventually, she had to go. The sun was setting, and her mom's texts, if they ever came, won't be kind. She waved a little. "Be careful out here, Charlie." He nodded. "You too, Maya." She didn't look back as she walked away. But something about his voice stayed with her, like the echo of a song you don't realize is stuck in your head until it plays again the next day. Except the next day didn't bring a song. It brought a helicopter. The sound shattered the morning sky. It was 8:06 a.m. when the black chopper descended on Washington Park. Police cars lined the street within minutes. News vans pulled up seconds later. A crowd began to form, phones raised, mouths open. And there, right in the clearing under the sycamore tree, where Charlie had been sitting just hours before, the helicopter touched down with surgical precision. The side door opened, and a tall man in a gray suit stepped out, flanked by two others wearing military-grade headsets and mirrored glasses. Everything about them screamed authority, money, power. The suit scanned the crowd, then pointed directly at a teenager near the edge of the gathering. "Maya Carter?" he called. Maya froze. She had come to check if Charlie was okay. Instead, she felt like the world had just spun sideways. "Yes," she said, voice cracking. The man smiled, not kindly, not coldly, just the smile of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. "We've been looking for you." The police ushered her inside the park boundaries. No one stopped her mother from pushing through the tape, screaming her name. Reporters shouted questions, cameras rolling. Maya didn't answer any of them. The man in the gray suit introduced himself as Andrew Sinclair. "Special liaison," he said, whatever that meant. He showed her a picture on his phone. Charlie, but not as she remembered him. In this photo, he stood in front of a private jet, clean-shaven, in a tuxedo, smiling with a woman in a silver dress. That's Charles Whitmore, Sinclair said, founder of Whitmore Industries, billionaire philanthropist, presumed dead 5 years ago. Maya blinked. What? Sinclair nodded. Turns out he wasn't dead, just hiding. Why would a billionaire be homeless? Maya asked, her throat dry. That, he said, is something we're hoping you can help us understand. They took her into the helicopter. She hadn't agreed, not really, but somehow found herself strapped in, headphones on, wind roaring around her. The park shrank below them, becoming just another puzzle piece in a city full of missing ones. Maya tried to breathe, tried to think. Her mom's voice echoed in her head, somewhere between fear and fury. But Charlie's voice was louder. You didn't have to stop. Most people don't. It felt like a secret door had opened, and now she was falling through it. They flew her to a private medical center just outside the city. The guards were discreet, the doctors polite. He looked different, still bearded, still weathered. But there was a peace in his face now, like something heavy had been lifted. You came, he said softly when she walked in. She hesitated at the door. Why am I here? Because you saw me, he said. Really saw me. And I needed that. Maya stepped closer, heart pounding. Why were you homeless? He smiled, eyes shining with something deeper than sadness. Because I forgot what it meant to be human. And then he told her a story. 5 years earlier, Charles Whitmore had vanished from his company's boardroom mid-meeting. He'd walked out, left everything behind: money, property, titles. No one knew why. Theories spread like wildfire. Criminal scandal, secret illness, fake death. None of them were true. I was drowning in success, he said. Drowning in people who smiled at me but never saw me. He paused, swallowing hard. I wanted to feel again. Real pain, real struggle. So I left it all behind. I slept on benches, ate from shelters, learned what it meant to be invisible. Maya sat down slowly. People feared me, pitted me, or ignored me completely. Until you. She looked down, words caught behind her ribs. You gave me more than a sandwich, he said. You gave me proof that compassion still exists. He lifted a trembling hand toward her. So now I want to do something for you. For this city. For people like us. Maya stared. People like us? He nodded. The forgotten. He was true to his word. The next day, a press conference shook the nation. Charles Whitmore had returned. And with him, a $200 million personal pledge, a foundation to aid the homeless, fund youth scholarships, and launch community centers starting in Maya's neighborhood. Maya stood at his side, stunned. Reporters swarmed. Headlines exploded. But what the cameras didn't catch was what he whispered to her that morning before they stepped onto the stage. This wasn't about charity, Maya. It was about humanity. And you reminded me what that looks like. She blinked away tears. He offered her something she never expected. A seat at the Foundation's Youth Advisory Board. And so the girl who gave away her last sandwich became a voice for those who had none. But the world didn't change just because of money or helicopters. It changed because someone stopped to care, when no one else did. The days that followed moved like dreams stitched with lightning sudden, too bright, too fast. Maya barely recognized her own life anymore. One moment she was just another face in the crowded hallways of Jefferson High, and the next she was being escorted down those same halls by security guards in navy suits, her name echoing through the school loudspeaker like she was some kind of VIP. Her classmates stared. Some cheered. Others whispered. A few scowled, convinced she had done something to get rich overnight. She hadn't. She'd just stopped, given away something small. And now she was being asked to sit at boardroom tables with polished people who spoke in acronyms and smiled like business deals. Don't let them change you, Charlie had warned her, voice softer now, health still fragile. They'll try to make you feel like you owe them something. But you don't. You owe the truth. That's it. Maya held on to that. Hard. Her first real board meeting was held in the penthouse of the Whitmore Foundation's newly purchased headquarters downtown. 12 floors up, all glass walls and sharp edges. Nothing soft or forgiving. Except her. She sat across from executives in tailored suits, their watches glinting under cold white light. A long table stretched between them, polished to a mirror shine. Andrew Sinclair sat at the head, calm and composed, like always. "Maya," he said after the formalities, "we'd like your thoughts on the pilot center we're planning near Eastlake. You know the area better than anyone else here." She blinked. That was true. She also knew what it smelled like in summer when the drains overflowed, what it felt like when the streetlights didn't work, what it meant to walk home faster after sunset. "It needs to stay open late," she said slowly. "Until 11. At least. That's when most trouble happens. When kids have nowhere else to go." Someone in a red tie frowned. "The cost of staffing that late." Charlie coughed lightly in the corner. "Just once." The red tie man shut up. Andrew nodded. "We'll make it happen." Maya didn't smile, but something inside her did. She still saw Charlie every week. Though the world now knew him as Charles Whitmore again, billionaire and philanthropist, he insisted she keep calling him Charlie. He said it reminded him of who he became when no one wanted anything from him. Their meetings were quiet, sometimes in his hospital room, sometimes in the rose garden behind the center's construction site. One afternoon, she found him watching two kids play tag through the chain-link fence, for tube still taped to his wrist. "I forgot how much joy lives in places we stop looking," he murmured. Maya sat beside him. "Why did you pick me?" He didn't answer right away. Just watch the children. "I didn't pick you," he said eventually. "You picked me." And that made all the difference. The media told the story over and over, each time with more polish and fewer details. They called her the sandwich girl, the modern-day miracle. They ignored the part where she had gone hungry herself that night, or the fact that her mom still worked double shifts and their rent still rose faster than paychecks. People assumed she was rich now. She wasn't. Charlie made sure she had a scholarship, a trust for college, a safe place to live. But he told her from the start this wasn't about charity. "This is investment," he'd said. "In your voice. In your fire." Still, she learned fast. People loved the story more than the truth. Not everyone welcomed her new role. Her school principal started asking if she'd like to take a break from classes to focus on bigger responsibilities. Some of her old friends drifted away. Some new ones clung on too tight. But Maya kept showing up. To meetings. To interviews. To neighborhoods where people didn't trust helicopters or promises. She stood in crumbling gymnasiums and church basements, telling her story not like a headline, but like a question. If someone invisible gave you everything they had, she'd say, what would you do with it? And people listened, not because she sounded smart, but because she sounded real. Then, the first threat arrived. A letter. No return address. Just 6 words typed neatly across a single sheet of paper. "You're ruining a very old system." Maya held it in her hands, skin cold. Charlie frowned when she showed him. "Jealousy always knocks before change gets in," he said, folding the paper carefully. "But let's not underestimate it." Security increased. Her name came off the foundation's public directory. She stopped riding the bus alone. Still, she refused to be afraid, because fear never fed anyone. And Charlie had taught her to look pain in the eye. 3 weeks later, someone lit fire to the first foundation site. It happened at night. No injuries. But everything they'd built, walls, windows, years of dreams burned in 2 hours. The fire marshal called it suspicious. Maya stood before the ashes the next morning, the smell of smoke still clinging to her clothes. Reporters asked if she felt defeated. She looked them in the eye. "No," she said. "This is fuel." She bent down, picked up a piece of scorched brick, and held it high. "We don't stop," she said, louder this time. "We rebuild." And people believed her, because her voice didn't shake. Behind closed doors, Tensions rose. Sinclair argued for tighter control, fewer public speeches, more handlers. Charlie pushed back, even as his health faltered. This isn't about protecting the brand, he told them. It's about protecting the soul. Maya listened quietly, but when Sinclair suggested pausing the project, she stood. If we slow down now, they win, she said. The same people who let Charlie disappear for 5 years. The same people who think kindness is a liability. No one interrupted her. Not even Sinclair. They rebuilt the center in half the time, with double the volunteers. The community came out in droves, mothers with babies, grandfathers with toolboxes, teens skipping school to paint murals. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was a promise. And Maya kept showing up. Every day, even when cameras stopped rolling, even when the story faded, because she hadn't given a sandwich to become famous. She had given it because someone looked hungry. And maybe, deep down, so was she. Hungry for meaning, for proof that small things mattered, that people mattered. Charlie's condition worsened in early spring. Doctors used words like inevitable and time-sensitive. Maya visited him more often, reading him letters from kids who'd joined the center's programs, stories from other cities where her story had sparked action. He smiled less, but his eyes stayed sharp. One afternoon, he took her hand. "There's something I need to tell you," he whispered. "Something I didn't put in the press releases." She leaned in. "I wasn't just hiding from my world," he said. "I was searching for someone to give it to." Tears burned behind her eyes. "You found her," she whispered. He smiled, tired, but peaceful. The day Charlie passed, the sky rained like it remembered something. And Maya stood in front of a crowd outside the still under-construction second center, a letter in her hand. It was addressed simply, "To Maya, when the world feels too heavy." She read it aloud. It wasn't long, just a few lines. "You reminded me what wealth really is. Not money, not power, not legacy, but the look in someone's eyes when they realize they're not alone. Never stop being that reminder." She folded the paper with shaking fingers, then turned to the crowd. "We're just getting started," she said. The world didn't slow down after Charlie passed. It sped up. Tributes flooded in from world leaders, celebrities, CEOs, artists. News stations ran multi-day coverage. Memorials were held in New York, London, Cape Town. But Maya didn't go to any of them. She went back to Washington Park, to the sycamore tree, the one where she first met him, where it had all started not with a press conference or a helicopter or a billion-dollar foundation, but with a simple act of noticing. She sat there alone that afternoon, no camera crews, no speeches, just her, the cold wind, and the roots beneath her feet. She whispered thank you to the silence. Then she stood up and got to work. Charlie had left her something no one expected. Not money, not the foundation. He had already set those in motion. But tucked into his final legal documents alongside trustees, bylaws, and all the machinery of the empire he had once abandoned was one quiet clause. Appoint Maya Carter as Executive Visionary Director. No title like that had existed before. Sinclair didn't know what it meant. The lawyers didn't either. But Charlie had defined it in his own words. She decides where the light goes next. So that's what she did. Maya took the blueprint and tore it open. Not the literal architectural plans, but the concept. She said no to another glass-walled monument. No to marble floors and donor name plaques. She wanted centers in converted laundromats and used rec rooms, empty schools, spaces people already knew. She refused to expand fast. "We're not building buildings," she told the board. "We're building trust." Some pushed back. They cited funding, visibility, scalability. But she stared them down with the same fire that once faced a helicopter and didn't flinch. "They don't need us to impress them," she said. "They need us to show up. And keep showing up." So they did. The second center opened 6 months after Charlie's death. This time, in a forgotten wing of Lincoln Elementary boarded up for years, filled with dust and silence. Now it pulsed with life. After-school programs, mental health counseling, hot meals, Resume writing stations. Legal aid. One hallway had been converted into a mural gallery, painted by the teens Maya insisted they hire from the neighborhood itself. At the opening ceremony, she didn't speak first. She handed the mic to Zayla, a 15-year-old who had once slept in the gym locker room during winter because she couldn't make it back to her cousin's place before the train shut down. Zayla stepped up, cleared her throat, and simply said, "This place feels like someone finally saw us." No applause could follow that. Just tears, and the hum of something powerful being reborn. Sinclair pulled Maya aside after the event. "You're changing more than neighborhoods," he said, watching the crowd linger even after the ribbon had been cut. "You're changing the playbook." Maya didn't answer right away. Then she turned to him, her voice low. "That's what Charlie wanted, right?" Sinclair smiled, not the corporate smile, but something a little softer. He wanted someone who could finish what he was too tired to keep fighting for. She looked at the kids playing tag in the yard, at the woman in the borrowed blazer filling out a job form with trembling hands. "I'm not finishing anything," she said. "I'm just getting started." But not everyone celebrated her rise. Behind closed doors, old enemies of Charlie's legacy began circling. Developers angry that the centers were taking over profitable blocks. Politicians bitter they weren't in the spotlight. Business groups frustrated that Maya refused partnerships tied to PR or exploitation. She started receiving threats again. This time, they were smarter. Legal in tone, bureaucratic in language. Zoning disputes, tax audits, property challenges. They didn't attack her heart. They attacked her time, her energy, her will. But Maya didn't back down. She built a legal advisory team made of pro bono volunteers and retired civil rights lawyers Charlie had once funded. She turned every delay into a media moment. And when one council member tried to block their third center over safety concerns, Maya invited him to volunteer there for a week. He did, and changed his vote. Still, Maya wasn't invincible. She got tired. There were nights she cried alone, long after the staff had gone home. Days she questioned if she was enough, if she was just the right story at the right time. And then came the fire. Another center. Arson. Second time in under a year. This time, the damage was personal. Because the fire took more than walls and windows. It destroyed the original mural painted by Zayla and 3 others. The one that had shown Maya offering her sandwich under the sycamore tree, golden light blooming around them like a halo. Gone. Burned to ash. She stood before it the next day, heart hollowed. Zayla came up behind her, eyes red. "We'll paint another," she said softly. Maya shook her head. "No," she whispered. "We'll paint 10. That became the movement. 10 murals. 10 stories of kindness. 10 walls across 10 neighborhoods. Each one painted by youth from those very streets. Each one telling a different story of human dignity, resilience, quiet courage. The media followed. Schools joined. Museums hosted pop-ups. And for the first time since Charlie's death, Maya felt that warmth again. Not from helicopters or headlines, but from hands. Dozens of them, painting side by side, creating something together that couldn't be sold or bought or stolen, only shared. One afternoon, as the 8th mural neared completion, a small boy approached Maya. He couldn't have been more than 7. Mismatched shoes, sticky hands, big eyes. "You're the sandwich girl?" he asked. Maya crouched beside him. "I guess I am." He held out something in his palm. A broken cookie, carefully wrapped in foil. "I saved this for you," he said. Maya blinked, took it with both hands. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, she laughed. The kind of laugh that makes your ribs ache. The kind Charlie would have loved. The 10th mural was nearly complete. It stretched across the crumbling brick wall of an old auto repair shop once abandoned, now transformed into the newest youth center in the heart of Eastwood. This one was different. Not because it was bigger or brighter or more beautiful than the others, but because it told all their stories woven into one living image. Maya stood in front of it, as the final brushstrokes were added. On the far left, a young girl in a hoodie offering a sandwich. Beside her, an old man, half in shadow, half in light. To the right, a tree twisting upward, branches full of faces, hands, stories. Above it all, in bold strokes of crimson and gold, were the words Charlie had once whispered to her. "You reminded me what wealth really is." Maya stepped back as the teens around her cheered, laughing, arms covered in paint. Zayla put her arm around Maya's shoulder. "That's you up there," she said, nodding at the girl in the mural. Maya shook her head. "That's all of us." But while the city celebrated, forces beyond the streets moved in silence. The Whitmore Foundation, despite its rapid growth and grassroots victories, had become a target in boardrooms across the country. Old money didn't like new models, and some legacy nonprofits died to slow-moving systems, and wealthy donors felt threatened by the fact that a teenager with no pedigree had reshaped an entire sector with empathy, speed, and fire. The calls began. From lawyers, from politicians, from media outlets sniffing for scandal. Then came the audit. Federal, comprehensive. It wasn't just about numbers. It was about shaking her, slowing her, reminding her who really held power. Sinclair pulled her into a private meeting. "You don't have to fight this alone," he said. "We can bring in a PR team. Legal defense put you on a plane somewhere warm until it blows over." Maya looked at him, steady. "I'm not leaving. I'm not hiding. This foundation was built to disrupt. If we weren't making them nervous, we wouldn't be doing it right." He sighed, but she saw the pride behind his worry. "You sound like him," he said. "I learned from the best." The hearings were scheduled for the end of the month. Speculation swirled: misused funds, illegal partnerships, exaggerated reports. None of it was true, but the truth had to be fought for. Maya didn't hire a PR firm. She didn't go silent. Instead, she held a press conference. Not at a hotel, not at City Hall, but under the sycamore tree. The same place she'd met Charlie. The same spot where the story began. She stood before the microphones, wind pulling at her coat, and spoke with the voice of someone who had watched a system fail, then dared to build another one. "I'm not afraid of audits," she said. "I'm afraid of a world where compassion is criminalized and silence is rewarded. We've built these centers with transparency, accountability, and love. If that's controversial, then let the controversy come." The crowd roared, and for the first time in weeks, Maya felt the wind shift. The hearings came and went. 3 days. Stacks of papers. Sworn statements. Maya sat through every minute. Spoke when asked. Answered with clarity and calm. Zayla and dozens of teens from the centers packed the gallery, wearing shirts that read, "Compassion is not a crime." In the end, the committee voted unanimously. No wrongdoing found. Full clearance. No restrictions. But more than that, they issued a formal statement recognizing the Whitmore Foundation as a model for future youth-centered, community-based philanthropy. Sinclair cried in the hallway after. Maya didn't. She just exhaled and went back to work. The year after Charlie's death marked a milestone no one expected. 10 centers. One in every borough. Each unique. Each run in partnership with the community. More than 4,000 teens served. Hundreds placed in jobs. Dozens reunited with families. Maya received awards, invitations, national platforms. But she always said the same thing. "I'm not the hero. The kids are." She told the story of the sandwich less often now. Not because it didn't matter, but because it had already done its job. People knew. And what mattered now was what they did with that knowing. Then, one crisp November morning, she found a letter in her office. No stamp, no signature, just her name written in blue ink. Inside was a photo. Charlie, standing beside a child in Africa, years before he disappeared. He was smiling, but different, lighter, freer. On the back, scrawled in handwriting she hadn't seen in a year. "Keep going, kid. You're more than I ever dreamed." She held it to her chest and let the tears fall. Maya turned 21 the following spring. The foundation's board voted to remove the word interim from her title. She became, officially, president and executive visionary director of the Whitmore Foundation. No one questioned it, because by then, everyone knew. She wasn't just running the organization. She was the organization. Its heart, its fire, its voice. On the anniversary of the first center's opening, Maya hosted a celebration. No gala, no tuxedos, no velvet ropes. Just folding chairs, string lights, food trucks, and music. People came from every city where her centers had spread. Some flew in, some walked blocks. They brought photos, stories, memories. One elderly man face lined with years stood near the edge of the crowd and waited until she passed. "You probably don't remember me," he said softly. She turned. His eyes. Blue. Not Charlie, but someone like him. Someone the world had forgotten, until someone stopped to notice. "I got help at your center last year," he said. "Now I volunteer there. Every Saturday." Maya smiled. "I remember you now." That night, under the lights, she took the mic one last time. No script, no agenda, just truth. "When I gave away that sandwich," she began, "I didn't know what I was giving. I thought it was food, but it was something else. It was a piece of hope. And what Charlie gave back wasn't money or power, it was the reminder that one small act of kindness can rewrite everything. We don't need capes. We don't need permission. We just need to see each other. Really see." The crowd rose to their feet. Not for her, but for what she represented. For what they all could be. The next day, Maya returned to Washington Park. She sat under the sycamore tree. A group of kids played soccer nearby. Birds sang in the branches above her. And for a long time, she just sat. Then, slowly, she unwrapped the sandwich. Half a sandwich. She stood up, walked over to a man sitting alone on a bench nearby, jacket torn, eyes distant. "Hey," she said gently. "Are you hungry?" He looked at her, then at the sandwich. "Are you sure?" She nodded and smiled. "Yeah, I've got more than enough." The end.